So the inflammatory bowel diseases are broadly classified in the two categories, that is non-specific and specific. Non-specific means the exact positive factor is not known, and no specific features are there, whereas the specific includes the ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. These are two major contribution of the IBDs of the patients, the ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. So the IBDs or the usually these are chronic diseases, means the chronic inflammatory diseases. The inflammations in the wall of bowel that causes the some permanent changes in the bowels that may lead to the ulcers, strictures, perforations, so many other complications may be there. And it includes the small bowel as well as the large bowel. So we just non-specific, any kind of the infections may be there, or some kind any no specific positive cause is there, and sometimes the bowel get inflamed and it resolves itself and nothing leaves permanent damages. While we are going to discuss here the specific ulcerative colitis and the Crohn's disease. So first we discuss the ulcerative colitis. That is the chronic inflammation of the colonic wall. The disease is the characteristic is the disease is having a small ulcers, a small abscesses that includes only the mucosa and submucosa of the layer. Very rarely it goes into the deeper layers up to the muscular layers. Usually confined into mucosa and submucosa. Whereas the rectum is the most commonly affected area. It can affect through anus to ileum, but the most common affected part is the rectum and then sigmoid colon, and in some cases it may extend proximally to the terminal part of the ileum also. The difference between the Crohn's disease and the basic difference in the Crohn's disease and the ulcerative colitis, both are inflammatory diseases, both possess the inflammation of the bowel wall, but the lesions are characteristically different. The colitis, the lesion of the colitis are only involve only the mucosa and submucosa and or the continuous, means when a particular part of the bowel is inflamed, the continuously it inflamed means the complete portion of that bowel get inflamed. Whereas in the Crohn's disease, when we discuss later, there are the skip lesions. Skip lesions means the in particular part of the bowel, small area is inflamed, and in between there is a healthy area. Then again there is the lesion area, the disease bowel. Means there is a skip lesions. Some part of bowel is almost healthy, then some part of disease, then some part of healthy. Where in the colitis, you see the continuously there is the disease part, and then continuous there is the healthy part. So the basic difference in the lesions of the UC and CD, means ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, they are skip lesions, and the deepness of that ulcers, the ulcerative colitis, ulcer of the ulcerative colitis are confined to the mucosa and submucosa only, very rarely to the deep muscles, whereas the ulcers of the Crohn's disease are usually deeper than the mucosa and submucosa. So the etiological factors, the commonly idiopathic, because the exact cause is unknown, but there are some predisposing factors which are associated, which may be associated with the disease, but which may aggravate the disease, but no exact correlation has been found till in so many studies that such like the infections. Patient may have the amoebic dysentery along with amoebic infection along with this ulcerative colitis, but and it can worsen the conditions, but it is not proved till that any kind of the particular infections, that amoebic abscess, amoebic infections, that cytomegalovirus, and some kind of that chlamydia infections that may found associated with the ulcerative colitis, but and these can improve the patient's problem, but they are not only that who can produce the disease. Understand? So similarly the genetic factors may be there, but it doesn't follow the typical Mendelian pattern to, so you can find out the genetic correlations, but it has been found that the patients have some genetic correlations with their primary and secondary ancestors, related ancestors, which may suffer the similar disease. Immunological disturbance is also very important because the inflammations of the colonic wall, usually when the colon wall is, when you know that when our any part of the body get inflammation, that leads to the increase the permeability of that particular part, so that the inflammatory cells, that lymphocytes and the leukocytes come to that eosinophils come to that part and starting the process of the inflammation, and uh, then after that some cytokinins and cytokinins are released, which causes the inflammatory response, and that starts the healing. Inflammation is the first stage of the healing, but uh, here there is maybe some disturbance in the immunological control, that is the function of the T lymphocyte and B lymphocytes, which the function of these the T lymphocyte and B lymphocytes are to control the inflammation, so that the healing will progress, because inflammation should be there initially, but at some after some point it should be minimized and resolved, and so that the health tissue goes into the healing in healing process. But if it is not controlled, immunological disturbance there, that T cells and B cells are not acting properly, so they cannot control the inflammatory process, and the inflammation goes continuous, that may lead to the further damage to the tissue, and not healing is not coming the way. So here the immunological disturbance is a very important factor. And next, the autoimmune response. So some kind of sometime in some studies it has been shown that there is some auto antibodies are formed in the wall of the colon, so they can destroy that they are destroying the own tissue of the colon. So some kind of this autoimmune response is also found in some persons, some patients, and psychosomatic is it has a great contributions. Okay, the patients who are suffering from ulcerative colitis, there may be found some kind of the psychosomatic changes psychosomatic changes occurs in the patients, that due to the emotional disturbance or depressions or some strong emotional events, that can increase the disease to process, as that can increase the severity of the disease, so that though the patients with ulcerative colitis, we cannot say that are the having some psychiatric disorders, but there is some psychosomatic disturbance always associated with the attack of the disease and the process of the disease. Now, nutritional factor are till date no established nutrition has got relation with this appearance of disease, but sometimes some food can aggravate the conditions, and some patients have some kind of allergy with that particular food, which can increase the severity of the disease. So there can maybe some relation with the nutrition also. But the important thing that is very atypical from all the other disorders, that smoking seems to be have protective effect in ulcerative colitis. means the patients who smoke or who are smoking, that has little protective effect in patient. Ulcerative colitis means patients who are smoke that uh, cannot have the ulcerative colitis. It's not exactly true. It doesn't mean everybody should start smoking, but the smoking has little it not damages the body. In case of ulcerative colitis, it seems to be little protective. Means patient maybe due to the smoking, patient feels some relax, some uh, relaxation, some out of the depression, so that can improve the disease, and that can improve the condition of the patient. So that may be some related, but it has been found that smoking has little protective effect in the ulcerative colitis. That is very uncommon from other disease. And now to come to the pathological part of the disease. What are the pathological changes occurs in the disease? So here we already discussed the pathology is almost limited in all the cases, limited to the mucosa and submucosal layer. Very rarely it goes beyond the submucosa into the muscular layers. These are the fissuring in the mucosal layer with a small and regular pseudopolyps. The pseudopolyps are there that you can see in the pictures. These are pseudopolyps. Pseudopolyps because all the layers of the intestine is not there in the projections. Only the mucosal layer is there. So usually what happens when the diseased wherever the healthy part in between the disease area, so that got the edema and that got the inflammation. So excessive inflammation causes the proliferation of the mucosal layers that produces these kind of the polyps. Though because of these having only the mucosal layer, that's why they are not true polyps. These are called the pseudo polyps. The rectum is the we already had discussed the in 90 to 95% cases, rectum is always affected, and that may present as the proctitis. The features of the proctitis, that is hyperemic uh, and inflamed wall of the rectum. Along with these patients suffering from which touch on the which bleeds on the touch, and because the inflammations, and patients have some fissures, anal fissures and fistulas, and patients may have the pus discharge along with the stool, and urgency of the stool is very important factor. Urgency in this to means patient cannot control the 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 urge of the passing stool. A patient had to go immediately. It's that is urgency. Patient means unable to control the urge of the passing stool, and the tenesmus, that is cramping pain. Patients while passing the stool. So the proctitis is important, in very important features of that ulcerative colitis, because we that know that 90 to 95% rectum rectum is affected. That's why inflammation is the rectum one. That is the proctitis. The affected areas, the dysentery which attached to that part of the colon, that become edematous, thickened. Uh, and there are the multiple superficial abscesses called crypt abscess in the mucosa. After the rupture of the abscesses, they create the ulcers in the lumen. You can see in the picture, the microscopic picture of that the tissue from that colon. You can see these are the crypt abscess. Just below the mucosa, these are there are the small abscesses. Later on, that abscess rupture here and create a deep ulcers in the mucosal layer of. So these are called crypt abscess. So these are the characteristic of that ulcerative colitis. So many crypt abscesses are there that leads to the ulcers. So in between these crypt ulcers, there is the projection in the mucosal layer, that is called the pseudopolyps. So in fulminant cases, the transverse colon become acutely dilated, and that called the toxic megacolon. Sometimes it may lead to the perforation also. What happens actually when that particular part of that colon is inflamed, and in fulminant means very severely inflamed. So when this happen, the severely inflamed, so that with the that protective physiology, that part of the bowel is relaxed completely, and so that it dilated very much 5 to 6 times to the normal size, and there is no movement in that part. So that is condition is called a toxic megacolon. If the condition is not treated properly within time, so that megacolon, which is toxically dilated, that may lead to the rupture and perforations. So this toxic megacolon is also an important feature of ulcerative colitis, but only in the fulminant cases, only in the very severe cases. With time, the precancerous changes occurs in the severe cases. Means the timing of the disease is very important in ulcerative colitis, because if as the disease progresses, the time there is the chance of converting into the cancer is very much increased. We will discuss later in the slide, where we know that the time is how is related the time of the disease in converting the cancer. The patient may have the cancer in ulcerative colitis conditions. So the clinical features, the presentation of the of that ulcerative colitis. So the disease usually presents in the three types. The chronic and continuous means the patients have the symptoms continuously, and the disease is chronic, and the severity of the disease, the symptoms is little less, but it is continuous. Second is the chronic relapsing remitting. Relapsing remitting means disease occurring again and again. Means the patients having the history of this complaint longer time. In between, the patient becomes severely ill, and then the patient may relieve and feel, but not completely cured. And within a passing time, patient again has the means patient may have the episode or the attack of the disease, the severity of that is the chronic relapsing and remitting. And third is the acute fulminant cases, where the disease is acute, and fulminant means very very severe, that can increase the systemic effect, and other system may be involved, and that is a very dangerous also. So whatever the disease fulminant means, that is the that having more mortality rate, the symptoms are more severe. So the sign symptoms, the most common sign symptom is the diarrhea. That may include the only watery diarrhea, the blood, the mucus, the pus, along with the stools. Then that tenesmus, abdominal cramping pain, mucus, the urgency in the stool, that is very important features, because the rectum is inflamed, and the inflamed part of the bowel become hyperactive. So if some fecal matter come to the rectum, then rectum don't want to keep it, just want to pass it, so that patient cannot control the urge of the passing stool, that is urgency in the stool. And if the condition is chronic and long standing, patients may have the dehydration because several diarrhea, weight loss because the malabsorption of the food, anemia, hyperproteinemia due to the loss of the blood, due to the loss of the mucus. Mucus is also the protein. So patient may went into the hypoproteinemia. And sign of in fulminant cases, there may be the sign of systemic toxicity, just like fever and other systemic sign symptoms, malaise, body ache, and other system may be involved. So the common sign symptoms are the diarrhea, that may include to the watery stool, mucus, blood, or the pus, tenesmus, abdominal pain, dehydration, weight loss, anemia, hyperproteinemia, and in fulminant cases, systemic sign symptoms like the fever, malaise, anorexia, all these things may be there. So the disease severity of disease, how we say that the disease is fulminant or disease is mild or moderate. So this is the measure on the basis of the diarrhea or the bleeding. The rectal bleeding or diarrhea 4 or less per day, and with no other systemic sign symptom, the disease may be says that it is mild. If the diarrhea or the diarrhea has frequency more than 4 per day but no sustained illness, then it is moderate conditions. Diarrhea more than 4 per day with or more with one or more than one sign symptom of the systemic illness, just like fever, tachycardia, hypoalbuminemia, and the weight loss. So that fever more than 35 37.5 degrees, tachycardia more than 90 per minute, hypoalbuminemia less than 30 gram per liter, and the weight loss more than 3 kilogram. So means out of these one, two, three, four. Out of this 4 systemic sign means more the diarrhea more than 4 per day, along with this one or more sign of the systemic illness, the patient may consider as the severe illness. Diagnosis: how you diagnose the case? The careful history taking is the very important. History taking, the characteristic features means the patient's presentations and the history, the family history, all these things. The history is very important. The history, physical examinations, and then investigations. So you can diagnose the case only with the history taken and physical examination. Also, you should need the investigations to confirm the diagnosis and to establish the severity of the disease, how much disease severe is that, and to rule out some other kind of that factors, some to rule out some malignancy, or so these investigations are required to these things. On the physical examinations, patient may come with abdominal pain, tenders over the involved part. Means if the rectum or the sigmoid colon is involved, the patient, the tenders may be in the left iliac fossa. If the descending colon is involved, then the left lumbar region. If the transverse colon is involved, then epigastric pain. And if the right colon is involved or the ileocecal part is involved, then the right iliac fossa may be there. So the abdominal tenderness is depends on the involved parts. Commonly, the transverse colon is involved, so that the tenderness may be in the epigastrium. There is maybe the fullness due to the dilation. If the tactic dilation is there, then there is the abdominal distension is there. In acute fulminant cases, fever may be marked with the rigidity in the abdomen and distension as the toxic megacolon. If the patient has perforation, there may be the symptom of the peritonitis may be there. And some extra elementary manifestations are also there. The disease of that ulcerative colitis that may present in the eye, in the joints, in the skin, in the tongue, and other body parts. If you suspect ulcerative colitis in the patient, then you must do the rectal examination of the patients, because with the you know that 90 to 95% cases the rectum is always involved. So you may found that little tenderness in the rectum. You may found that patient have discomfort in the rectal examinations. Patient may have some anal fissures, anal fistula, or perianal abscess may be there. So with if you are suspecting ulcerative colitis in the patient, then rectal examination is always necessary to do that. The extra alimentary manifestations, we are discussing that except in the alimentary canal, ulcerative colitis may have some presentation, extra elementary manifestation, just like in the joints, there may be arthritis in the bigger joints, the knee joint, wrist joint, elbow joint, shoulder joint, hip joints. The ankylosing spondylitis is 20 times more common in the patient of the ulcerative colitis. And the bile duct cancer may be found in patient of the ulcerative colitis. In skin, there is the erythema nodosa, pyoderma gangrenosum, and aphthous ulcers. These are commonly associated with ulcerative colitis patients. Iritis in the eye, and the sclerosing cholangitis. Sclerosing cholangitis very rarely, but may be associated with the case of the ulcerative colitis. So these are few extra elementary manifestation in the patient of the ulcerative colitis that you may find on the examinations. So if any patient with ulcerative colitis have these symptoms, it means it is supportive that patient is having, it is supportive your diagnosis that patient may have the ulcerative colitis. Okay, so next class we will discuss this investigation and then the management.